Hi. So it's Monday, and I've just finished reading everyone's papers. In general, I'm very happy, but I noticed a trend in a lot of the papers that talks about um, symbolism, but I repeatedly saw people using the idea of symbolism incorrectly. Um, so I thought I would just take a few minutes and talk about that. So to kind of give groundwork, I went to the Oxford English Dictionary just so that we could use a standard working definition. And the definition of symbolism that applies to us says something that stands for, represents, or denotes something else, not by exact resemblance, but by vague suggestion, or by some accidental or conventional relation. Um, so this is especially true when you take a physical object and you use it to represent a immaterial concept. And I saw a lot of people talking about symbolism in Carter's work, but they weren't actually talking about symbols. They were talking about descriptions or elements of magical realism. Um, a perfect but cliche example of a symbol is something like a nation's flag. So the American flag. So with the American flag, we actually have different levels of symbolism. We have the initial symbolism, which is the flag, the concrete physical object, stands for the concept of the nation, so the concept of the United States of America. But buried in this symbol are additional concepts that make it a more complicated, a more rich symbol. So, for example, the flag has 13 stripes, and each of the stripes represents a one of the original um, colonies, one of the original 13 colonies. And we also have the 50 stars. So each of these 50 stars represents the idea of a state. Now, you can't point to one of the stars and say, this star represents Illinois and this star represents Florida. You just know that each star has the idea, the concept of a state in general. Um, so, this is very different than something like the brooch in Angela Carter's work. The brooch just represents kind of a magical object. Um, that's not to say that you can't look at Carter's work and see symbolism there. Um, if you wanted to, you could make a good argument that the rose at the end of the story might represent an idea like love or romance. Um, but you can do that because that's kind of a traditional symbol. Think about Oscar Wilde when he wrote about the nightingale. He uses the rose there as a stand in for love. But the most important thing is that you're looking at a physical object that the author is saying is equal to a symbolic object. And if you're going to argue symbolism, you have to make that case that this physical object that's being represented represents a concept or a broader idea, an emotion, or something like that. It just can't be an association, they actually have to be interchangeable. So when we talk about symbolism, you really just want to make sure that you have that clear. Okay, so like I said, in general, I really enjoyed the papers. in general, I think I saw some good work, but this issue of symbolism is one that I want to address, and I just want to make sure that everyone has a good handle on it. Okay, well, have a good week.